about 2 seconds away from having a nuclear level meltdown on a company, and I need y'all to tell me whether it's justified or not, okay? So for context, my husband and I bought our first home not all that long ago, but because we are first-time home buyers and we're also millennials, which is, you know, just a fancy way of saying we're poor, the home that we bought is a little bit of a project home in some ways. One of the issues that it had is it had some cracks in the foundation that needed to be repaired, including some old repairs done by the previous owners that weren't the greatest repairs that needed to be chipped out and then redone. So we hired a foundation company to just in general make it to where we no longer have any leaking or flooding issues when it rains. And since they were already doing work on the foundation, we hired them to install an egress window. So I'm going to start with showing y'all the stuff that they did around the egress window, because that was actually their best work. So I'm going to give you their best foot forward just to make sure I'm being extra fair, okay? We hired them to do a horizontal egress window, okay? They sent us, these are sketches that they did. No one said anything to either of us before they just cut a vertical hole for a vertical window in our house. And of course, once they cut the hole, what the fuck was I supposed to do at that point? They just did it without asking. And when I say they just did it without asking, I mean, they told us they would start the work on a Thursday morning. I woke up on Wednesday morning to the sound of the hole already being cut in the side of my house. They just showed up a full 24 hours later with a work order that they had just modified without notifying the actual homeowner, and began the cutting process without even ringing my doorbell to say, hey, we're here and we're about to cut a hole in your house. Again, I'm not in construction, so tell me if I'm just being overly critical, but it looks like a child cut these holes. The drywall is it's especially because they also cut an additional hole in the drywall for some reason, again, without ever saying anything to me. But again, that egress window is their best work. So let's look at the rest of their piece of shit work. They were supposed to install wood in between some of the joists, I think they're called. Again, I don't know a lot about construction, but one thing I do know is you're not supposed to use green wood in construction, because green wood is wet wood, and wet wood dries eventually. And what does it do when it dries? It shrinks as the moisture leaves it. Now, as it dries, it's not even going to do the function it was there to do. It's going to shrink, and then I'm just going to have some loose board just rattling around up in my ceiling. And when I say rattling around, I mean really rattling around, because they didn't even actually make sure to nail those boards into the ceiling. They just put some nails underneath the board and then kind of bent them at a right angle to like let that board sit on top of the nails. The final day they were here, I'm assuming it was the epoxy that they were injecting into the walls that they spilled, but I don't actually know because they never said anything to me about it. But one of them spilled something on the tile of my floor in the basement, didn't say anything to me, clearly attempted to scrape it up themselves, because you can see like trowel lines through it where clearly someone tried to scrape it up. And apparently when they realized they couldn't clean it up, what did they do? Oh, that's right. They just came upstairs and told me, we're all done here. It's great. Bye-bye. And they left. Didn't even tell me that they'd spilled something on my floor. So I discovered this 36 hours later when I went down into the basement to do laundry. Only by that point, it was like 90% dry. Still a little tacky, but like 90% dry. So even more impossible to get off of the floor. So I'm pretty sure they just straight up ruined my floor. And then the piece de resistance, you know how I said that I originally hired them to specifically solve the leaking issues by fixing any cracks in the foundation? Not only did they not fix all of the cracks in the basement, some of them they left completely untouched, despite the fact that they were included specifically in the work order. They also did not touch any of the existing bad repairs, did not chip them out at all, which means they didn't repair them at all, but they did send me an additional $500 invoice for that work that they didn't even actually do. So I need you to tell me, am I wrong if I go nuclear on them? And when I go nuclear on them, if I'm not wrong, what the kind of resolutions should I demand? Because at this point, I don't know that I can trust them to come in and repair this. Like, this is so egregiously bad that it almost feels intentional to me. Like, what do I do? Do I need to talk to a lawyer next? What are my next steps? I am navigating these waters completely fresh. I've never done this before. So please, someone tell me, what the do I do?